It's time for Tech Talk with Mathew Dickerson. I'm your host, Tony Graham. Good afternoon, Matthew.
Good afternoon, Tony. Good to see we've warmed up a little bit from this morning. It was a bit chilly this morning when we did Tech Talk.
Yeah, it was, and I believe you've vastly improved on your alliteration too. We're all ready to go, aren't we?
We're ready to go.
Yes. Now, the Vodafone TPG merger, you might like to explain what we all need to know about that.
Well, it's interesting. There's a bit of history with this one. TPG were going to build their own mobile phone network. And then Huawei came along and said, we'll build that network for you and we'll roll out this fantastic network at a wonderful price. And the Australian government said, Huawei, nah, sorry, we're not allowed to have you on our shores. So TPG found that their rollout of their mobile network was not going to work. So they went and looked at other avenues. What they ended up coming up with was a merger between Vodafone, who have got a mobile phone network, and TPG, who are better known for their landline network. So it makes sense. It's a marriage that combines the landline of TPG with the mobiles of Vodafone. So there's logic there. The ACCC got involved and they really wanted 4 mobile phone carriers and they believed that would produce more competition. I just don't think we're a big enough country to have the competition with 4 carriers and make them all viable. In the end, the ACCC gave in, I suppose, to the concepts from Vodafone and TPG. And so now they're allowing Vodafone and TPG to merge. And what we hope as consumers that this will produce is a better, more powerful, better resourced telco. So you've got Telstra, obviously the leader, best coverage in regional Australia, so fantastic, they're there. Optus have come along and they've been putting some pretty good plans together. And then you've always had Vodafone as the kind of poor cousin, the third cousin that really hasn't been playing in the market that well. But I think with TPG and Vodafone, you'll see that they'll be a better competitor, and I think anyway, you'll see Optus and Telstra increase their coverage, increase their, I suppose, viability of plans for people, and basically we'll end up with 3 really strong competitors.
Yeah, and a marriage not made in China. How good's that?
Not made in China, that's right. More Singapore, this one.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, well, that's true. But we're friends with them.
Yeah. So for the end user, all it means is more competition. We should end up with better companies. All 3 companies will improve because of their competition. And the new entity will be called TPG Telecom, and it'll just give you another choice for your landline and mobile phone operation.
Yeah, and the market's probably structured a little bit better as a result of it, which is the bonus, I guess. Yeah,
I think you're right. And I think Australia is big enough to be able to handle the 3 networks. I think, as I say, 4 was just too many. We've only got about 25 million people across a vast land, 7.6 million square kilometres or thereabouts. So it is hard for anyone to come along and give good coverage across that area. But again, I think with 3 telcos there, I think we'll see, basically for us out here in regional New South Wales, we'll see better coverage from whoever. I mean, Telstra leads it at the moment, but basically that competition will drive all of them to give better coverage to places like out here in Wellington.
Yeah, that's going to be quite welcome. Now, there's a solar renewable project which is about to create hundreds of jobs in northwest Queensland. That's what the developers say. We've heard that about other solar renewable projects, but this one's a little bit more special, isn't it?
This one's actually quite clever. Of course, the biggest argument against solar farms that people put forward is the sun doesn't shine at night time, which is correct. The sun doesn't shine at night, and people building solar farms obviously know that and feeding back energy into the grid. They're aware of other energy that's already available at night time. But this particular one is quite a good combination of battery power and solar power and gas turbines, so that 85% rather than 100% of the power out of this solar farm will be produced by the sun. The rest of it will be available via, say, gas turbines and via batteries. So you can have energy at times outside when the sun's shining or when there's clouds in the sky or at night time. And so it's a reasonable size plant, 50 megawatt plant, so it's a reasonable size. But again, that idea of combining different technologies in the one plant, I think is maybe a bit of a pointer to what we'll see in the future. Rather than just solar farms being solar farms and wind farms being wind farms, we might see that combination in particular, I think, of batteries and then other technologies built into it.
Yeah, well, it's continuing to evolve in this particular space, isn't it?
It is, and my prediction, Tony, 2026 the end of 2026. Talk to me on the 31st of December 2026 to see if I'm right or not. But that's the time that I believe we'll get to the point where 50% of our power in Australia will be produced by renewables. And some people are talking about 2030, but I think it'll happen sooner than that. And I've looked at some graphs and looked at some information about where we're headed, I suppose, with renewables. But 2026, hold me to that date.
A lot of that's going to be reliant on Snowy 2, Matthew, as well. And what's the timeline on that, do you know?
I don't have the exact timeline on that, but I think Snowy 2 is incredibly important for this state. But I think across the nation there are so many projects, and here's another one we're talking about in Queensland, but there are so many projects happening across the nation with solar, with wind turbines, and there's other technologies being developed as well that I think will get us to that point where we'll hit that 50% point by 2026. What was significant, Tony, in this particular project was we all are familiar with Glencore and what Glencore do. When the announcement was made, it was pointed out that this particular solar farm was just 10 kilometres due west of the town, the other side of the big Glencore operation. So they're pointing directly at the fact that Glencore is nearby, but it doesn't matter. We're progressing with solar anyway.
Yeah, that's great. Now, Samsung is going to launch 5 devices on the 5th of August at Unpacked. And that's it's going to be interesting because, as you know more than any, suppliers have been impacted by the coronavirus with Samsung and other manufacturers around the world.
Yeah.
So what's the story there?
Well, Samsung was expecting a big year this year, and then obviously coronavirus came along, and that did hit South Korea early on. I think they've done quite well in managing it, but it still has had an impact. Samsung are basically trying to do what Apple do and get a whole bunch of hype and ramp up a whole event to get people excited about their new products. I don't think they've quite got to the point as Apple have, but they're getting there and they're getting people excited about it and they're leaking information. So there's 5 products that they'll be launching on August 5. I'll be up early in the morning to watch Unpacked. It's usually, I think, about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So they've got a Galaxy Note 20. The Note 10 is the current one, and the Note 10 or Note 10 Plus, very popular phone, and people like the idea of a phone that large with a stylus. They can actually write on that phone, and a lot of people use that. In particular, they've got specific jobs or apps that they're using on those phones. So they're releasing the Note 20. It's rumoured that there'll be 3 versions of the Note 20 to be released. Now, I can't confirm that, but they've got 2 versions of the Note 10, so I suspect they probably are looking at 3 versions of the Note 20. You've got the Galaxy Fold 2. Of course, the Fold 1 had a bit of a checkered introduction because it kept failing. So the Fold 2, hopefully much better phone than the Fold 1, and I think that'll come out and maybe realise some of the potential of folding phones. Also looking at a new smartwatch, some new earbuds, and potentially a new tablet as well. There's also some talk about potentially the Flip. There's the Galaxy Z Flip foldable phone, maybe a new version of that, a 5G version of that might be announced as well. I'm not so sure on that particular rumour, but again, while this is great for consumers, Samsung coming out with the new products, Samsung trying to compete with Apple. Apple will come out with new products later on this year, maybe October, November. So it's, again, that continual leapfrogging by the big manufacturers around the world to try and produce the best products. While they're competing, trying to be the market leader, you and I as consumers get to enjoy better products at better prices.
Sounds great, Matthew. Look, thanks for your excellent alliteration today. And you are the tech guru in the Central West, by the sounds of it. And you've been listening to Tech Talk with Mathew Dickerson on Binjang 91.5. Stay tuned next week in the morning at 10:40 a.m. and 3:40 p.m. for the next edition or editions. And it's back to the great music and community information on Binjang.
Thanks, Tony. Look forward to talking again next week.
Thanks very much, Matthew.